3, 4, get my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great. 9, gonna shine, life is good. I'm doing fine. 10, gonna do it right and do it again, yeah.
Hello and welcome to the EFM Health Club Podcast. My name is Justin Waring, and with me as always, Jason Jesusius and Wade Brady. How are you guys?
Good, thanks, Justin. How are you?
Justin?
I am very well. It's cold and wet and windy up here in Sydney. We are in the depths of winter right now, so we're all rugged up. You guys actually were wearing jumpers in the middle of summer in Adelaide, though, so, you know. If you're tracking the YouTube videos along the process, you wouldn't know. You guys are always in a vest or a jumper.
I think our highs are much higher than your highs, and our lowers are lower too. So, yeah, do your homework, buddy.
That's saying something. All right. So today we're going to talk about our kids. Right, so there is within Australia we have a very good setup in kids being able to access sport, play sport. There's plenty of places to exercise. You know, even in the depths of winter as we are now, organised sport is really well done. There is plenty of. It's not like it's snowing. Kids can go outside and play, but you know there is this steady decline in. Just general play, general exercise. The organised sport is still all right, but this general activity and involvement in health and fitness seems to be on, a slow decline. So we thought we'd discuss how to get kids involved today, how to keep them involved in, just general exercise. We might border on some organised sport and also touch on kids in the gym, how old, what they should be doing. So I thought I'd kick us off and then we'll just have a general discussion. So the most obvious way, and that sprouted wildly, is that kids should be involved in an activity that they have fun, so they're enjoying it. What that looks like from, I guess, each kid is going to be a little different. What do they enjoy? But that's one of the basic attributes of keeping kids involved in exercise. In terms of what my boys do, we play a lot of organised sport. What do you boys both have kids? What do your kids do in terms of exercise?
You go, Wade.
We're pretty new into this space. My eldest is just about to turn 8, and we've just kept it simple with one sport. We've got basketball during the week, training and a game, and Auskick. I don't want to overload them. They're still kids, still want to make it fun. I think, I don't know, a lot of the times it's about the parents maybe, I don't know, like pushing it or holding it back. Like for me, I'm not going to be the parent, sorry, Easton and Sunny, but I'm not going to be running them all around town all the time. Because we live in a city and it's just so much time sitting in the car. Like in the country, I think I'd be more inclined to get him into sport every night. But yeah, we're in the start of it. I've only got a year 2 and a reception, so I might change my mind as time goes on. But my kids will be playing sport, and we often will go to the park and kicking the footy, and they're growing up in the gym and they just think exercise is a normal part of life for everybody, which is great. But yeah, we're still, Jason's probably had a lot more experience with his kids being a bit older.
Yeah, so mine are 14 and 11. My eldest has swum. She's taken a break from it because she's turned 14 and decided that life's about sitting on the couch and being on her phone. Boyfriends and high school, and, I think she's coming around to the idea, though, that she needs to go back to her swimming. But it's one of those things for her where it does need to be her decision to do that, because if she's forced, then that's not going to have a good outcome. But that was a couple of nights a week. She can go as often as she likes during the week, but she was going twice a week for about an hour. I think in a mini squad swimming or something like that. but yeah, it'd be laps, different strokes, different paces. So it's coached and guided. And my son plays soccer. I coach his soccer team. He plays once and trains twice. So yeah, that's where my kids are at. Owen's 11, so he's not yet at the age where it's super competitive, but it's getting there. He's next season is when they start playing for a position on the ladder and they start counting the score and that sort of thing. Which, as a side note, my kids know the score.
Yeah.
In a game, we don't keep score. Yes, we do. We know what the score is at all times, and we're playing to win. We're not playing to just go out and have fun. But that's by the by.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's doing that, and I would say he's reasonably engaged with it, but he doesn't live and breathe it like some of the other kids do. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we probably need to make a little kind of divider here in terms of, say, an organized sport that is coached and then general activity. So Wade, you mentioned going down the park to kick the football around. And I see that as almost like parent led, as opposed to, so that's your incidental exercise as being a coach. This is the sport we're playing. This is what we're doing. Here's the time that our game is on. This is when, so my boys do soccer and athletics, have always. And athletics starts at 6:00 on a Friday night. Soccer has its starting times. But general activity, and so we live in the mountains, as I've mentioned numerous times, bushwalking. When the kids were younger, we have to walk the dog. We have a border collie. She needs to be walked every day. And trying to, I guess, so some of that is not conscious, right? That we're doing things and for, I guess, as adults, as our exercise, but the kids are just doing it because, it's something to do. How we keep kids engaged with that kind of, I guess, less competitive side of exercise is, I think, probably the key to most people's general fitness, most kids' general fitness and good health. I guess I'd like some ideas, and I have one of my own that worked with my boys as to how we make that fun. I know my boys went bushwalking because we made them. They're not really interested in bird life, how nice the trail is, the view they can look at for 5.5 seconds and they're done. One of the more successful things we ever did, and the things that the boys absolutely loved, was just playing tips in the front yard. Even as 14-year-olds and 11-year-old, playing tips with mum and dad in the front yard took a lot of effort from us.
We don't have tips. We don't have tips in South.
What do you call it?
We don't know what it is.
I know what you're talking about.
Tag.
Tag. Chasing.
Chase, is that what you call it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we call it tips in Sydney. So tag.
Yep.
Yeah. Doing
Tag
that in our
Chasey. Anyway.
All right. I see that. That was probably more like thinking back, the kids had more fun doing that, got more sweaty, more out of breath, and in fairness, so did we, my wife and I. One of the best kind of exercises I can come up with for someone who struggles to find time to do exercise, because you can do it in your house, chasing your kid through their house, even if you have a no running policy inside your house. The kids love it. Absolutely love it. They have so much fun.
Good. Yeah. Just thinking about all sorts of things while you were chatting before. I think the parents are in such a powerful position with leading their kids into sport and finding the enjoyment of it. And I think the time in the car on the way to the event and the time in the car on the way home, I think that's critical. Like, I'm just thinking like before, it just sort of occurred to me. I sort of try and find things to talk about on the way there, and I might say, because I'm the coach of Easton's basketball team, and I might say, oh, such and such has really improved. Have you noticed like they've been getting more rebounds in the last couple of games? Like trying to take enjoyment out of seeing other people's enjoyment. Like I've really taught Easton, he's really into basketball and he's scoring most of the team's points, but it's a lot of that's my influence. We watch a lot of basketball. We've got a ring up at the gym here. The other kids are probably just very part-time. But I don't want Easton to take every shot. So I'm trying to get in his head that's actually really cool if you pass the ball to someone and you watch them score, and seeing their enjoyment is so good for you because you've passed the ball to them, and it's and then I don't know if what I'm trying to say, like it's and this is all these little conversations, and even bring up some of the funny things that happen in the game, which is related to fun, and it leaves you with a really good feeling after the game. Like yes, you win and lose, whatever, but there's so much more within the game that you can talk about and concentrate on. I don't know. I think rather than just put the kids in the car, put a screen in front of them and just drive home.
Yeah.
You're trying to engage them in parts other than just their own performance of the game. So the communal, the cerebral parts of sport, which is the inclusivity, the making others feel better, making others stand taller, and making an overall positive experience from that aspect, rather than simply, rocking up, playing your game, and leaving. So there's a tuning in on the way in, and then there's almost like a play-by-play on the way home. The things that you both notice is what you're getting at to make it a positive experience and something to look forward to beyond the running around.
And again, you're in a powerful position as a parent. Like there could have been a couple of bad calls that go against you, and your kid gets in the car and they're complaining, and it's up to you to stop that and go, that's just what happens in sport, mate. Like I know it's annoying, but they're out there doing their best. Sometimes you're not sure if they are, but like you're the one that can put those flames out and change their focus onto something else. And I think the younger they are, and the more you do it, the better off you're going to end up with kids and their attitude towards sport.
Yeah. Well, that powerful position is a key point. Like you do lead by example, and sometimes if you sit back and analyze, I guess the dictating of how you should have played, on the way home. If you sit back and analyze the way you screamed at the umpire or the referee for, some pretty ordinary calls, like you tend to get a bit embarrassed. I think, like my youngest is involved in state league soccer, and we don't, sometimes the ref is not always up to the task. And there's some pretty contentious calls within soccer, but if you sit back and analyze like yourself, you go, I actually I wouldn't like it if my kid was doing this. I'm lucky my kids are a bit placid on the field. They're not placid in playing, but they've been taught not to talk to referees. So it's very good. But you do need to lead by example. And even with the exercise, like adults should be leading their children into this passive style of exercise, this general exercise, this kind of desire to get out and move, as opposed to what I think is happening more and more, as in my kid needs some exercise, I better book them into a class so they can learn how to do something, because I'll sit on my phone and watch.
Yeah. So there's, as you've been getting at, there's the structured team sport or structured coached activity versus unstructured, not organized, or maybe it is organized, but it's unstructured activity like tag, like taking the dog for a walk, and that there's a value in both.
And just playing the sport, playing soccer, playing football in the front yard, backyard, in the park, whatever, but not making it a learning experience where you go, in terms of technique, this is the way, like actually just having fun with the kids. Like that'll breed like a lifelong, I guess, enjoyment from the sport and from the activity, as opposed to everything being a learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game, put the game back in game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It annoys me about top level sport a lot of the time, that they get so analytical and so micro. It's just like at the end of the day, it's a game. Just like let the players play. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you know, my boys are a bit older, 17 and 14. They stop asking you to play at a certain point in time, and there's no going back. So if you think, well, I don't have time, my son or daughter's 9, I don't have time right now, but I'll get time in the future. Give it a couple of years, they'll stop asking you. They start playing with friends, and they lock themselves in their bedroom because so they stop asking. You have a very small window to have that influence. Is what I've experienced.
It's another thing that hurts, like seeing them mimic your ridiculous behaviour. Mine is when I watch the footy. Sometimes I don't agree with what the umpire calls, and then the kids repeat it, and it's like, oh God, I'd really is that what I look like? I need to change my ways.
I think if we think a little bit more broadly, like those points are reasonably obvious to most people, and I think this generation growing up, exercise might look a little bit different. So I'm not sure where I stand on in terms of virtual reality kind of and games being physical, like playing tennis in a virtual reality setting or playing golf or whatever it might be. I'm not sure where I stand on that. I think, there's a general level of activity there for the child, but whether it's good overall, I'm not sure.
I wouldn't say. I'd see it as like there's layers to it. There's the moving the body. There's the team camaraderie. There's the getting out on the grass and getting dirty. There's the being out in the fresh air. Like, you're removing layers, which isn't good. Overall, I don't think it's holistic.
Yeah.
Combined with other stuff, probably not too bad. But if that's your solely thing,
that's how you get exercise.
It's going to have its benefits. Of course, it's still going to have its benefits, but it's not going to have as many benefits of getting out in the elements with your teammates.
I think variety is important. That it's not just one mode. I think multiple modes. But I think the biggest thing is the time that we're prepared to take with our kids to actually stop and play with them, and it's making time and leading by example. You're right, Justin. It shouldn't be coaching all of the time. Sometimes it should just be play. But kids will follow their leaders, and if you're out there doing it with them, if you're prepared to get out there and do it with them and not just be their coach all the time, I think you got a better chance of broadening their activity horizon. Whereas, like you say, if they start shutting you off because either we don't do this enough because you never make the time, or when we do make the time, it's always structured and has to be your way or a certain way, sometimes you just got to take your hands off the steering wheel and let them kind of take the reins, and you follow them and, join in with their joy.
Yeah. So. COVID brought, a lot of trouble, but I found my boys, we have a reasonably big backyard. They made bike jumps in the backyard, destroyed my backyard, but there was a lot of mountain bike jumps. But they also built, when I think back, like a Ninja Warrior course. They're jumping from things to things, and they're trying to tie rope with sticks on it as branches so they can swing from this and that. And then getting out there and
that will be very good memories for those kids as they get older.
Yeah, but there's also a level of experimentation without being the structure. So they would have got and so I also wanted to finally get into like whether particularly boys, they're more inclined now at mid teenagers, 16, 17, to want to go to gyms. It seems it's been happening for quite a while. But I've said to my boys, like, kind of climbing up a rope, swinging off this, jumping there, jumping from like pad to pad, swinging off something, doing a pull up, a chin up, like grabbing onto bars and doing monkey bars and things like that, creates all of the muscle movements. We've talked about 7 planes of movement a long time ago now, but all of those were incidental without having to ever be coached. So going out and having an experimental kind of attitude to, what can my body do? I mean, I don't see Ninja Warrior on the TV anymore. I don't know if it's still kind of a thing, but I think that was great for kids because it taught you to jump, leap, grab, climb, all the things that I guess I'm old enough to know that that's what I did as a kid, climb a tree. And doing that with your kids without pulling a hamstring is actually quite fun and leads them into doing more of it.
Yeah. I took my kids, this is a while ago now, I took them rock climbing at an indoor rock climbing place here in Adelaide. And my daughter isn't actively inclined. My son probably a little bit more so, but they had a blast. They had a great time. They did learn something new, but it was all right. Once you've learned there's something new, it's have at it. Just go, just climb, just try and get to the top.
Yeah.
And then the time went like that. They had a great time. They were worn out at the end.
Yeah. And maybe some of these sports, like mountain climbing's a sport now. It's in the Olympics. As something, if your child doesn't like soccer, doesn't like football, doesn't like cricket, doesn't like tennis, whatever, has tried it all. Some of the other like fringe sports, they may find fun because also competition. When you're playing soccer or rugby or footy, also puts a lot of kids off. Like I get that. I'm a more competitive person. I love the competition, but I understand most people don't.
A lot of people don't.
The culture and the type of people playing it too. That's not just the actual sport itself, but that I remember playing basketball in outer suburbs of Adelaide. Didn't like it. I just felt like a lot of egos, like belittling. And then when I went back to the country, and where it was more just footy players jumping on the basketball court in the summer, I loved it. It was a different sport, and I got back into basketball. So, that I guess fringe sport players is probably like there's the term footy mates. Like footy mates, generalising, but there could be more egos and chest out, and that might not suit some kids' personalities. So the fringe sports generally could be more an inviting atmosphere. So it is good advice to get out there and try some different things, because I've sort of always thought in recent years that so many people probably never really found the thing they really like doing, because who goes and tries everything? So and
there's little communities everywhere. Like there's a little basketball community at each centre. Like that I've found. Like I run by myself, and I did that trail running video the other day, and I like trail running. But there's a whole community of trail runners in Sydney and in the mountains that organise runs together, and then they'll go out for coffee afterwards. And there's a community of people that are set up to support you. If you if as an adult you put yourself out there and then drag your kids along, and they'll find their little community as well. There's little communities everywhere.
I think that's really good. I knew I was going to bring this up, and this is probably the time to bring it up. Over the years, you meet a lot of people when you've been doing this for 16 years, and often, have you ever played footy? Or so many people I find played footy, basketball, all these sports somewhere to the end of school. And then after school, or right near the end of school, they've dropped off completely. And then they've come to see me and my club in their 30s or 40s, whatever age, or late 20s, whatever. And it's just I've always, since recognising this, I've thought, how do you fix this issue? Like, yes, it's good that you're active and you're playing all this competitive sport through your high school, but if it doesn't lead you into being active later in life, what's missing? And maybe these types of community running groups and things, and again, getting out and trying different things. But I don't know, I've always thought, how do you bridge that gap? Like, surely one of the reasons you want your kids to play sport and get involved in being active isn't so they can stop it at some point. You want to follow it through. So I don't know,
enter health clubs, group training studios, personal trainers. this is where we as an industry have to do better, I believe, in getting our message out there and providing better options, not just come along and we'll smash you options. I'm talking about options where where the long-term health is the consideration. Your fitness, yes, your fitness, your strength is a consideration, but it's long-term, it's educational, it's community-based, it's together. And, yes, it's got to be driven towards that particular age group, but, and I don't know, maybe I'm my fingers off the pulse, and maybe this is being done well by other organizations, but, there are a lot of people who don't take their fitness, don't take their health seriously once they get past that age, Wade. And it does feel like there's a gap there. And that gap should be something that's, I believe, better filled by the health and fitness providers from our industry. And that's, the 20 to 30 market hasn't typically been our market. But it is a market, and it's a noisy one. There's a lot of noise there. Noise versus substance. I'm not so sure. Call that a hot take. I don't know.
Well, I was going to while you've been talking, I think if anybody wanted to start a business, a family-based boot camp where the whole family came, you exercised as a group, as a family, doing engaging activities that will provide all of the movements, but with a basis of fun to keep the kids involved. The whole family comes along, maybe with a couple of other families, and you all do the boot camp together. If someone wants a business idea, you've just got one. I'm not going to do it because I don't have a lot of time to do that, but someone should.
Yeah,
there's a lot going for that idea. A lot.
There's and that presents challenges. I mean, ask an organization like Step Into Life. They did this for a long time. With the ebbs and flows of the economic cycle, people opt out, but it doesn't mean there's not room for it to be done and done well and done better than it was done before. So,
a lot of that scenario is really going to hinge on the relationship you have with your kids, though. Like, if you've neglected your kids a bit too much through being distracted by work, phones, whatever, and then you can see their exercise dropping off, and now all of a sudden you want them to come and train with you. If you haven't got that relationship, you haven't continually done these things growing up on getting on your bikes and going to kick the footy at the park, it might be really hard to connect with them to go and do something like this. So again, I'm going to put it back on the parent.
Well, and one last thing. So, as a father of a 17-year-old who's doing his HSC now, like his final year assessment. So his friends have been going to the gym now for quite a while, and I've told him that I don't want him going by himself because I have a picture in my head of what he and his mates will be doing, and I don't think it's in his overall best interest. And he was okay with that. And now he's about to turn 18 and he will, be able to make his own decisions. Where do you guys sit in terms of, teenagers, particularly, I'm going to say boys? Well, let's do both. Teenage boys and girls in a gym. And because I think it's a bit easier with the boys because you know what they're going to try and do. Girls might be a bit more nuanced. But as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I know he wants big pecs, big biceps.
I'll cover the topic of teenage girls very quickly first. I wouldn't send my teenage girl to a gym because of the teenage boys. And that's the end of that. And my lad, I wouldn't have him go to the gym on his own with his mates. We talked about this earlier. I'm with you, Justin. I wouldn't do it. I'd say if you're going somewhere where there's structure and where there's some education. You don't need to necessarily learn it from me if you want to learn it from someone else, but you've got to be shown the right way under the guidance of a professional, because boys will be boys I pushed my boundaries and did silly things that I probably shouldn't have done in the early days, and that was sometimes even in the confines of the TAFE gym. I wouldn't want him to put himself at risk. And by all means, when you're young, you're going to push your boundaries anyway. But why put him in an environment where egos are going to get involved and they're going to do silly and potentially dangerous things? So it's a no for me.
Yeah, I think you've convinced me as well, because I was sort of on the side of there's so much information now. You can go and get lots of balanced programs. Kids are pretty good at going. They're pretty resourceful. If you put me off the idea, but I think I'd rather my teenage son going to the gym on his own, where you're not led astray. That you know what young blokes like when they get together. As I said before, we just see how heavy we could do on the bench press, see how fast we could hit the speed ball, and that'd be our workout. I'm sure that really did me no favours over the years. So yeah, I think it's a hard age. It's a hard age, but I'd rather go and buy the stuff and have them do it at home.
Yeah. Look, I'm a firm no. Like I've said no to my son, and my youngest, he runs about 40 to 50 kilometers a week on top of 3 nights a week of soccer training, and other soccer training and a game on Saturday and whatever. And so he schedules that all himself. So he does need a bit of strength work for his legs to avoid injury. So we're working through some body weight stuff for him currently. I earlier before the podcast, I convinced you, I put my case forward as to why I didn't let my son in the gym, because I can just lead it to injury. Because I'm the king of no. I say no to my kids all the time, but I understand a lot of people don't. And that's fine. And whilst you guys were talking, if your son or daughter convinces you that going to the gym, a 24-hour gym by themselves, is a good idea with their friends, and you're okay with it, what I would urge you to think about, or get them to think about, is that movement patterns are better than load. So make sure you get the movement pattern correct without load, and get the load, small enough, but get the pattern perfect. It's all about movement as opposed to load.
Yes. Keep
your sessions short, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, so that you can't do excessive amounts of load. Even if you decide, I'm not going to listen to mum and dad. Keep your session short, and then incorporate some mobility, some stability exercises, which are easy enough to find, as much as the strength component as well, as part of your 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
With those boundaries, if my son said, these are the 3 things I want to do, I go, okay, I'm willing to entertain the idea. But still probably no, because I know you probably would be lying to me. But that would be my advice to anyone that goes, okay, my son's badgering me. I'll let him go. I'll see how this goes. That would be the 3 things that I would stress.
Yep. Yeah. I'm with you, and it's they've got to be let go to make their own decisions at some point in time, 100%. And if they're going to go and do it anyway, whether I like it or not, those are some healthy tips for them to undertake. But I would still be strongly encouraging anyone taking up a gym membership for the first time as a youngster, or any parent tackling this, is to try and keep some sense of sensibility in what's being done, as the voice of reason, rather than saying, yeah, sure, go for it and figure it out for yourself, because no doubt they'll learn the wrong thing from somebody else to know what they're doing. So
yeah.
But like with my kids, Easton's already designed programs when he was like 6 or 7, and he wrote his own program on the whiteboard and did it. And I told him, there's a push, you got to do a pull. So I feel like he's going to be fine, but that's not everyone's going to have that set up. So I think if I was a parent, and I think the first step would be invest in someone that can guide them through the early first couple, 1 or 2 years. And if you get those movement patterns in place correctly from the start, they won't lose that. And then it's just a matter of, can they hold their line if they go to their gym with their mates, and will the program, the balance of the program stuff go all out the window? And then, yeah, it's so hard. Like, it's, as you say, boys will always be boys when they get together. And I know, like, I think me and my mates are bigger idiots than my brother and his mates. Like, it's not always the same. But I think I would look at it as an investment. If I didn't really know anything about the gym, but I knew the importance of moving properly and keeping it balanced, I would just say, bugger it, I'm just going to pay the money, have him train properly under the safe conditions, he or her, and then hopefully, and that's a great foundation, I think. And then moving forward, if they go and start to do their own thing, at least they've got an idea now.
Yeah. All right, boys, we might leave it there for another week. Thank you. It was a good conversation. And I think, I think throughout that whole conversation, we've got our parents' hats on, and going, my God, there's a yes, there's a no. Parenthood's a struggle. I feel sorry for my parents. And now I'm doing the same thing, going, boys, my boys, when you have your own kids, you'll understand this is tough. Yeah.
100%.
Should I worry about having teenagers one day? Because a lot of that, I was probably not qualified to comment. I've got an 8 and a 6 and a 3-year-old.
No, you're all good.
Different perspective, mate.
Yeah,
good.
And it's the problems you have with your smaller kids are reasonably similar to the problems I have with my bigger kids. They're just bigger as they get bigger. Small kids, small problems.
The thing I'm just bracing myself for is when they stop listening to me and start listening to their friends. I'm not sure how I'm going to go with that. What age is that?
You could be worried.
When's that? High school?
Soon.
Okay. Yeah.
Soon. When they get to the biggest thing I found, primary school, what we call primary school, like up to year 6 or so, the kids' mates, their parents and whatever. And then they go to high school, you drop them off, they catch the bus. You don't know who their mates are. I still don't know who my kids' mates are. One of them was about to finish high school. I know maybe 3 of their names, but I couldn't pick them in a lineup. Yeah, so...
Very.
Yeah, but that might make me a bad parent. But they live so far away in the mountain that you don't see them. So I know who's in their soccer team, but that's different to their mates at school. So
absolutely, yeah.
Interesting. Good.
Yeah. All right, boys. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
No worries. We'll talk to you soon.
Will do, fellas.